Hello, and welcome to part 11 of 12 of Google Ads for Total Beginners 2020. I'm going to be talking about bid strategies in this lesson. What are bid strategies and how they help you achieve your desired outcomes? So remember, in one of the earlier lessons, I talked about how the way Google Ads is set up is it's an automatic auction. So you and other advertisers are competing for space in the search results page on Google when somebody types in a search. Excuse me. And so the most basic form of getting your ads to win and placed where you want them to be placed is by using a bid strategy called maximum cost per click. And that's a very rudimentary old bid strategy that basically means you set the maximum bid limit you are willing to pay to get a click, and then Google will bid with your ads up to that amount. And if somebody else has a higher bid than you, they might possibly win and get that spot. So that's called manual cost per click. And again, that's kind of the oldest, most basic bid strategy. I've got my campaign settings open over here, and I've got the bidding setting open here. So there are different bidding strategies that you can use based on what kind of objective you want to achieve. So, for example, my objective with my virtual assistant campaign is that I want people to perform a specific conversion action. I want them to sign up for a consultation call with me to hire one of my virtual assistants. So I want to prioritize conversions, not necessarily clicks. Sometimes you might be prioritizing clicks. You want to get the most clicks, whereas you're not as worried about specific conversions. Or sometimes you want your ads to show up at the top of the search results page every single time, and you're not as worried about if that generates the most clicks or the most conversions. Google lets you choose different bid strategies that prioritize those different kinds of objectives that you have. So I'm just going to go through here and just kind of give a brief explanation of each bid strategy and what different objectives they help you to achieve. So there's manual cost per click, and then there's also this checkbox here that says help increase conversions with enhanced cost per click. And basically what this means is that it's similar to manual cost per click, but when you set a maximum bid that you're willing to pay, let's say I'm willing to pay $3 for any click, with enhanced cost per click, what Google will do is based on all the data it's gathered about your conversions and the performance of your campaigns, it will dynamically increase your maximum bid limit by up to a certain amount. I believe it's 25 to 50% higher than your max cost per click. If it will do that, if it believes that that click is more likely to result in somebody performing a conversion action. Because obviously my goal here is conversions, and overall, it's better. It functions better to help you get more conversions, because for example, if I set my bid limit to $3, and let's say there was a click that I would have spent $3.01 on, and then that click resulted in a conversion, I missed out on that click because I had a maximum bid set at $3. Whereas Google has the knowledge to be able to tell, okay, based on this person's browsing history up to this point, they are most likely to perform some kind of a conversion action after they click on this link. So we're going to raise that bid limit just enough to where they can click on my ad will show up, and they'll click on it, and then they'll perform that conversion action. Next, you have target CPA, which means target cost per acquisition. Cost per acquisition means the same thing as cost per conversion, how much money you're spending on average every time somebody performs a conversion. So this basically, this doesn't set a hard bid limit, sorry, a hard limit on your actual bids for your clicks. What it does is it will dynamically change your bids for clicks in order to get you a target cost per acquisition. So let's say a conversion to me is worth $20, or I should say the maximum amount I'm willing to pay for a conversion is $20. So that means, so for somebody coming to my website, what I want them to do is to book a call with me, and I want to pay about $20 for that call because I know it's going to be profitable for me once they become my customer. So Google will automatically change your bids for your how much you pay for a click to where it averages out over the course of a month where you're paying your target cost per acquisition number. Okay, so that prioritizes conversions. Now there's target ROAS, which means target return on ad spend, and this is basically the same thing as ROI. So return on ad spend means what percentage would you like to make more in revenue than what you're spending. So if I need 100% return on ad spend in order for this to make sense for me, that means that if I spend $1, I want to make $2. Okay, so I'm making $1 of profit. So that means I would tell Google, I want my return on ad spend to be 100%. You can set this to whatever you want, but if you can't really shoot for the moon and go, oh, I want 1,000% necessarily, because that just may not happen. You know, Google is still having to deal with, it's basically dynamically setting your bids. And the higher your percentage of return on ad spend, the lower the bid Google is going to place on your ads, and the less likely people are going to click on them. Or I should say, the less likely your ads are going to show up because they're going to be less competitive because they have a lower cost per click limit. So you have to be within reason here. So basically, this is similar to target cost per acquisition, but it's a percentage. So you're telling Google, instead of saying, okay, I want to spend $20 on average for a conversion, I want to make back 100% on my ad spend. Maximize clicks. This prioritizes clicks, not so much conversions. So this is kind of what it sounds like. Basically, Google will dynamically change your bid in order to get the most clicks possible for your given daily budget. So if you have a $20 daily budget, Google is going to, throughout the day, it will dynamically change your bids so that you get the most clicks you possibly could. So that means it might lower your bid for certain, if Google predicts you can get a certain click for a lower amount, or it might raise your bid. You can also click set a maximum cost per click bid limit. This is similar to manual cost per click. It just means that if you don't want to pay more than whatever, it's not going to push your bid higher. But that might result in you getting fewer clicks. There's maximize conversions, which is similar to maximize clicks, except that instead of giving you the most clicks possible, it's prioritizing giving you the most conversions possible. So, because more clicks doesn't always result in more conversions. It honestly, it depends on so many different pieces of context why the person is clicking on your website. So with maximize clicks, you might, and this is actually fairly common, if you use maximize clicks, let's say you get 100 clicks in a day, but the percentage of those clicks that actually result in conversions might be pretty low, like 1%. Whereas if you do maximize conversions, the number of clicks you receive will most likely be less. You know, let's say it'll give you 25 clicks as opposed to 100, but the conversion rate might be significantly higher. And so you're actually getting more conversions even though you're getting fewer clicks. And if that's your priority, if your priority is conversions, that's what you want. Now, there is a little bit of a danger, with maximize conversions in that it does not allow you to set a maximum cost per acquisition that you're willing to pay. So Google, with its automated bid strategies, this is one of them, you might, even though it says it's going to try and get the most conversions possible, it might end up spending a whole lot more money than you're willing to spend per acquisition or per conversion. So that's just something to keep in mind. Maximize conversion value is similar, but instead of trying to get you the most conversions, this is a little bit safer in that it's going to try and get you the highest value of conversions. So, for example, another way of saying this is that it's going to try and lower your cost per acquisition. Whereas with maximize conversions, let's say it'll give you 10 conversions in a day, but the value of those conversions, because of how much you're spending on the clicks to get those conversions, might not be very high. You might not be making very much ROI from that. Whereas maximize conversion value, it may not get you as many conversions, but it's going to get you a lower cost per conversion, so that the actual ROI for each of these conversions is more valuable than what you would get with maximized conversions. Target impression share is a little bit different, and this is not one that I would typically use. This is more for branding purposes. just making people aware, making them feel like you are there. And so what this does is you can tell Google, okay, I want to show up for all the keywords that I'm targeting. I want to show up this much of the time. So if you want to show up every single time somebody searches for whatever your service is like. So with me, if somebody searches for virtual assistants, and I want to make sure my ad is showing up every single time they search that, because it's not always going to typically. Um, that's what Target Impression Share does. You can say, okay, I want to show up 100% of the time. And then you can also specify your ad can show up anywhere on the search results page, or the top of the results page, or the absolute top, which means above, because there's the top, meaning that above all the other ads. And then there's the absolute top, which means above everything, including the organic results and the map results and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to show up 100% of the time, even if that may not really, get you the most conversions, the most clicks possible, that's what Target Impression Share is for. Again, it's not really something that I would use because I don't really care if I show up as long as I'm getting people to convert. So when you're starting out building your first campaign, I always suggest that you start out with manual cost per click. And then once you get your conversion tracking installed, then you can change it to enhanced cost per click. And the reason for that is that while you're starting out, you have more control over your bids than with all the other automated bid strategies. Because all these other bid strategies here are automated. So you can see in this list, the ones I just went through are all automated, meaning that you don't set really your maximum cost per click bid, whereas manual bidding strategies is just the manual CPC where you can set that maximum cost per click. So anyway, I go into that more in my Stupid Simple Google Ads course, which is free. And that's actually the first lesson in that course is the next part. So stick around for that, because that's gonna, now that you've learned all this stuff about Google Ads, all the underlying fundamentals, now you are ready to actually go through and kind of see how to put all this into action and how to build a campaign that is easy to maintain and that is simple. And now you're not going to be totally lost. Stick around for the next lesson, because that's where I'm going to show you how to create your first campaign, and you'll be so much further ahead knowing all this information than people who just follow some tutorial of how to build their first campaign without understanding this stuff. So I will see you in the next lesson, which is the first lesson of Stupid Simple Google Ads. I'll see you there.